slides here.
Can you go to the happy hour on your laptop, the happy hour page, and see if you can click on the live stream link that I just posted? Where is that? There it is.
Put it under happy hour.
Yeah,
Zoom meeting, YouTube link.
click the YouTube link.
I did. I see your face.
That's it?
No, I mean, I see the meeting too for the slides.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm watching now.
Yeah.
Zoom meeting.
The YouTube link.
It's more than a 17-second delay.
It was 17 seconds this morning. That's it?
No, I mean, I see the meeting too for the slides.
Okay. You're not going to let people annotate? If I remove the ability for participants to share screen and I make Gary a co-host.
He should be fine. Because he's not a participant, he's a co-host.
Mark, Mark just said, got to figure out how to moderate a Zoom webinar and somehow tune into the CBS meeting simultaneously. Yeah, I think we should probably sit. I don't know.
Do you want me to come over there? Is that easier? I mean, but then I don't have.
We're backlit over here.
Yeah, and I don't have laptop access because we can't both.
Well, let's do this. So how often do you think you're going to get up? Because you could put your laptop here.
Mm-hmm.
I could put my laptop where you're at, and then you could sit in your corner like you normally do, and I can sit right there.
And I can just slide out this way.
Mm-hmm. If we clear this off.
Mm-hmm. Move those anyways.
What's the screen from that angle? Hair of the dog, not
Hair
too
of the
bad.
dog and a little bit of.
Okay. Not too bad.
No, not too shabs.
No, we should bust out some coasters.
Should put a shirt on that isn't quite so cash.
I just decided to not change out.
Well, the only reason this bothers me is because these aren't regular bra straps. They come up wide or closer to the top, and this is a particularly wide neck shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel like?
Not oak smoked wheat.
We got Saison, we got Quad, we got Tequila Saison.
Maybe tequila saison.
Okay.
Why do I have to crawl into being here?
Should just be your corner.
Like all the way back here. Just like chilling.
Well, I mean, are we too dark?
still have it open on my laptop. I could look.
That's much brighter.
Oh yeah, much brighter.
Just leave it on. Does that come across? No, it shouldn't, right? My text notification? It didn't. Well, give it a second.
Yes. Or I don't know. I saw it on your screen. Okay, there the light just came on. I'm talking to you. No, I don't think it did.
Okay. I mean, it shouldn't. It doesn't come across when I'm in my Zoom meetings.
Yeah. You'll need to put it on a box because my head is cut off.
Even angled there?
Yeah.
Oh. Are you going to sit that far forward the whole meeting?
Are you? And we're gonna.
I don't think it matters for me because I can.
See, if I lean back, I go away.
Right.
Which I'm fine with.
Do you want your lappy up or do you want it? I mean, you don't have to have this live stream up.
That's almost like a 2-minute delay.
Yeah. Do you want the live stream up anymore?
I mean, I know you said you weren't going to monitor it, but. What?
Jarvis is on it. Do you want to tell him that it's like a 2-minute delay?
Yeah. I actually don't know if I can reply to him.
Where do you want triple?
Making faces.
You're
Triple.
not on camera.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. Triple sounds good.
I also realized my microphone is not muted. Should I get a box?
Sure.
Or should we just, here, let's just stack some books.
is there with his pet rabbit. All right. I don't know what else to do on here. You are viewing Michael and Kelly's screen. View option.
Just so everyone knows, I'm really drunk on this power of admitting and from the waiting room. It's pretty great. Who do we lose? We lost somebody.
Did you?
Got Claude, Brian and Christy, Daniel, Kathleen, Carl, Kelly, and Steve.
That's more than you told me you would.
Dana, there's.
Oh.
I was like, no, I know that we had somebody else. I'm checking email. Oh, you can tell him yes. We were. What sucks about not having two screens is I have to keep the participants tab open.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't see my slides.
I mean, you could make me co-host and I could pull it up. And I could watch participants.
That's true. What am I drinking?
I don't know. I know what I'm drinking.
I know. I am right now, before I forget, making Gary co-host. Because with my luck, I would forget.
That's true.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, glad to be with you.
Make you a co-host
You do
now.
need to make me a co-host now.
Dana's talking to you. Can you have more than one co-host? Yes.
Yes. Dana's not talking to me.
She's in a private chat. Oh, she's to me.
Yeah.
No. It is directly to you.
Ah.
Hey, Dana, Kylie signed in. You can send her that message.
I'm attempting to be the wizard behind like 4 curtains at once. It's going great.
Oh. We got T-minus 3 minutes. Make sure you got a full glass. Does yours look different?
Because I don't have everything open like you do.
No, like your chat window. Oh, you're just through the web interface, aren't you?
Probably.
Darn near.
That's really weird.
Oh, it's okay. I'm gonna take my own advice.
Go refill.
Refill.
All right.
Hi, Callie.
Hey, Gary.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Jamie wanted me to say hello, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I missed that I didn't get to see him at CBC. It was like, we all missed each other.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, next time I have to bring
Are we there?
the mic.
Okay. So Gary, so I think most of our club members know we're also trying to live stream this to YouTube in case we have club members who can't use Zoom. So we do have that going, and we're trying to watch that if there's any questions that come through, but we've tried to forewarn.
That sounds complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And it's also, there's a near 2-minute delay between what we say here and what comes through on YouTube. Yeah. So, I mean, technology.
We're making it work. Making it work. Uno momento.
30 seconds. Okay. You're here. I can't actually mute you. Oh, you're not. That's weird. Okay. Well, it is 7 o'clock. And I do want to be cognizant of Gary giving up his evening to come and talk to us. So we're going to get started with our meeting. Gary, so I have a couple of slides that I'm just going to run through just for the club. And then I'm going to exit mine and let you, I think as co-host, you should be able to share your slides, and then we'll kind of go through there.
Okay, we'll see how that works.
Every day something new. So just for the club members, again, thanks for being here. If you are wanting to have a conversation, please use the chat feature. If you want to ask a question at any point during the meeting, you can use the raise your hand feature or directly send somebody a chat message. For Gary's presentation, I don't know what it's going to be for Q&A time, but we'll just kind of roll with that. I see most everybody's got themselves muted. That's great. Just be cognizant of your surrounding sound. After I'm done talking, I'm going to be muting myself, partly because I have a dog that might decide to bark like mad, as she's done in every single meeting I seem to hold. So thanks for being here. Thanks for making a virtual meeting happen. Just a quick agenda, because this is what I've been doing with my life. Wanted to bring up happy hour reminder. Wanted to share Big Brew, talk about the raffle that we're going to do after Gary's presentation, and then turn it over to Gary. And Gary, I'm really sorry if I steal any thunder about Big Brew.
No, go right ahead.
So just as a reminder, we are doing these happy hours every single Friday at 5:30. The link is in these slides, which we'll share out with the club, but it's also, if you access the link through the club website, that same page has our Zoom happy hour link on it as well. So just a friendly reminder, they've been pretty great. we got visited by an alien last Friday, and that was an interesting Zoom bomb experience. As a friendly reminder, this Saturday is Big Brew. It is gone virtual. I have pledged to brew beer this weekend. Kylie's pledged to brew beer this weekend. I would highly suggest getting your ingredients from Jason at Home Fermenter. Remember that he's given us our club discount if you order through his website, and you can see the discount code there. He has done a great job of supporting us as a club, but also really just kind of supporting this whole be as socially distant as possible while keeping his business alive. So if you can, do support him. I think I am planning on brewing some sort of a lager. I can't decide yet, but we'll see where it goes. So the other thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to be done talking here really quickly, is we are going to do a raffle. So as this presentation is going, Dana and Kylie are coordinating to make sure that everyone gets assigned a number, and that's going to include the people who are watching on YouTube. We'll give a chance for people who are donating a prize to talk about their prize. And then we're going to randomly choose those numbers. You're only going to win once. You don't get to throw your number back in the ring, and it will be up to the donor and you to coordinate getting that prize to you in whatever way that means. Some of these things might be shipped. Some of these we might be delivered, but we'll try and figure out what's going on there. Okay. I think, unless somebody has a question for me that I can answer, I am going to stop sharing my screen so that Gary can share his screen. And I'm just going to pause for 10 seconds, unmute, throw a question in the chat if you do have a question for me. Happy to chat about it. Okay. Gary, I believe you should be set, ready to roll.
Okay. Is it working? You can see the screen. All right. Cool. Really get that to go away. All right. So I'm presenting on a little bit of homebrew history. My name is Gary Glass. I'm the director of the American Homebrewers Association. Been with the AHA for 20 years now, and been a homebrewer for 27 years. So been around for a while. And you know, prior to me becoming director of the AHA, I was actually, or before my employment with the AHA, I was actually just finishing up my master's degree in history. So I do have some personal interest in history, but the history I was studying at the time wasn't beer history. And so when I put together these slides, I was not a professional brewer historian. So don't hold me to his, professional level history, but I'll do my best here. And I have no problem if you got a question, you want to unmute and shout it at me, that's fine. I mean, I'm sitting at a desk in a hallway, we can be casual. So there was a question about what I'm drinking, what we're all drinking. I happen to be drinking an Irish stout that I brewed with my wife last weekend. We used the Lallemand Vike yeast, fermented out in about a day and a half, and crash cooled it, force carbonated it, and I'm drinking it. It's pretty cool. And full disclosure, my wife works for Lallemand, so I was able to get that yeast. Let's see if I can get this to move. All right, so what I'm going to put you through. I'm going to talk a little bit about the AHA, talk briefly about the history of homebrewing in the United States. I'll present some stats from some of the surveys we've done. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the activities that the American Homebrewers Association does to promote the hobby and protect homebrewers' rights. So a little bit about the AHA. We are a division of the Brewers Association, which is a 501c6 not-for-profit. Got about 43,000 members. Been around since 1978. Hopefully you're aware of our organization and have seen Zymergy magazine. We put on the HomebrewCon event, which is scheduled for June in Nashville, and may or may not happen in June of this year. We also put on the National Homebrew Competition, which is the world's largest homebrew competition, except for this year, we had to cancel the entire competition, so it didn't happen this year. And we have an AHA member deals program, which over 2,500 businesses give discounts to members of the American Homebrewers Association, and you can access those through our Brew Guru app. For those of you that I can actually see on my screen, raise of hands of how many of you are AHA members. Awesome, thank you. For those of you who are not, I've got a special deal for you. This will be my sales pitch for the evening. And it's particularly timely. As I mentioned, when we had to cancel National Homebrew Competition, the possibility of having to cancel the Homebrewers Conference, which if we do, we actually have plans for doing an online version. But those two things definitely have had a pretty significant financial impact for the AHA. And so if there were any time for anybody to consider joining the American Homebrewers Association, right now we would particularly appreciate it. For participating in this presentation, you get $5 off your membership if you just use that activation code of CBS. And then a little bit more about membership and your particular club. The Cascade Brewers Society participates in our Homebrew Club insurance program, and we provide that insurance program we don't get any financial benefit from that program, but what we do is we use it as because I have to hit this admit button. We use we use it as a benefit for clubs, but also an incentive for club members to become members of the American Homebrewers Association. If your club gets to 75% or more of your members as members of the American Homebrewers Association, we will pay for your insurance. So right now, based on the club size reported to our insurance company, the West Insurance, 78 members. We currently have 25 members as AHA members. To get to 75%, you need 59. So we need 34 new members to get to club having free insurance. So, end of sales pitch. You'll see that code at the top of pretty much every slide from here on out to remind you that you can join while I'm giving this presentation. I won't be at all offended. All right, get on to the history. Homebrewing has been a part of our culture here in this country from before it was even a country. The earliest known example of European style homebrewing dates back to an ill-fated attempt to colonize in what is now Virginia in the late 1500s. The colony didn't survive, but there is evidence that brewing was taking place in that colony. Now, there was brewing going on in North America by indigenous peoples. So there was something akin to beer that was being made before any Europeans arrived, but this would be the first example of something similar to what we brew as beer. And then, in 1620, the Mayflower and the Pilgrims, they landed at Plymouth Rock, which happened to be way north of where they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be somewhere down in actually in the Virginia colony, somewhere in President Day in New York, I believe. But they ran out of beer on the ship, and they panicked, had to land to make beer. And in fact, the first permanent structure that the Pilgrims built was a brewery, which I'm not sure if that qualifies as homebrewing. I honestly don't know. Like that would, if you have your own building, I mean, I think so. I mean, if you're in a bunch of like thatched roofed houses, then a brewing building constitutes homebrewing in my book.
Hey, man. Yeah, I use a detached garage. That's close enough.
Yeah. We'll still consider you a homebrewer, Danny. In colonial times, brewing was very commonplace. Almost every household did their own brewing. So not surprising that some of our nation's founders were also brewers. These three guys that wore wigs were brewers. George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson. In the case of Thomas Jefferson, he also had his own building outside on his estate, Monticello, specifically for brewing as well as winemaking. He did some of the brewing, but his wife actually did most of the brewing, and that was actually in colonial times. Most of the brewing was being done by women, and the beer was being consumed by the entire family. No age restrictions on consumption of alcohol back in those days. Skipping a huge chunk of history for brevity, we're going to go to Prohibition, which was enacted in 1919 and made homebrewing illegal, but probably made it vastly more popular, per capita than it's probably ever been in our nation's history. Like maybe colonial times a little bit more so, but in more modern times, you probably can't do anything more to make people inclined to make their own alcohol at home than to ban the production and sale of alcohol. So homebrewing outlawed, made homebrewing very popular. And then we figured out that was a stupid idea. So repealed Prohibition. Interestingly, with the repeal of Prohibition, home winemaking was legalized, but home beer brewing was not legalized. And there has been speculations about the reasoning behind that. So when I started with the American Home Brewers Association, the common reason given was that it was a clerical error. It was, they meant to do it, but they forgot and didn't put that into the legislation that went along with repeal. I've also heard rumors that it was like the big brewers. It was some conspiracy to prevent people from making beer at home. Well, in truth, neither of those is actually the case. Recently was working with some historians at the Center of the American West at the University of Colorado in Boulder. They were doing some research on the influence of homebrewing on the number of startup craft breweries in the country. And in their research, they found that the real reason why home winemaking was legalized, but home brewing was not, was that prior to Prohibition, home winemaking was regulated. There were limitations on how much wine you could produce. There were no regulations on home beer brewing. And so when they repealed Prohibition, they went back to a lot of the old regulations and just reenacted a lot of those old regulations, and the home winemaking regulation was one of those. But since there was no regulation regarding home beer brewing, there was no regulation put into the end. But without any kind of specific legalization with the way that the 21st Amendment works, homebrewing was not specifically legal then at that point. So we had a number of years to go before homebrewing would become legal. But that didn't stop, making it specifically illegal definitely didn't stop homebrewing. And so not making it specifically legal didn't stop homebrewing either. So homebrewing went on. And in the 1960s and 1970s, it started to have kind of a renaissance. Particularly with the counterculture in the 1960s, there were people forming communes and getting into home gardening and bread baking and all these kinds of do-it-yourself kinds of things. And home brewing came along with that. And so in 1970, Fred Eckhart, who's Oregonian, published a treatise on lager beers, which is the first modern American book on homebrewing. And shortly thereafter, Byron Birch wrote kind of a more comprehensive book on brewing in 1974. Now, Byron Birch was employed at a homebrew supply shop in the 1960s in Berkeley, California. He went on to start a homebrew supply shop called the Beverage People, and they're based in Santa Rosa, California. And one of the first that I know, first homebrew supply shops that started doing mail order, and it was actually when I got started in 1993. Around that time, I was actually ordering from Byron's store. Byron Birch's club, the Santa Rosa Bureaucrats, or Sonoma Bureaucrats, they won the Homebrew Club of the Year 10 years straight. The winningest club in the history of the National Homebrew Competition.
Did they have much competition back then?
Probably not a ton of competition, but there were several clubs. This was back in the 80s, so this was after the American Homebrewers Association was founded. So there were a handful, but I have a feeling Byron was kind of single-handedly helping that club win. He was an extraordinary brewer and an even more extraordinary mead maker. Multiple times winning Mead Maker of the Year. 1974, the Multi-House Falcons were formed. In 1979, the Oregon Brew Crew was formed, which makes me think that I've got 2 repeat slides because that one was specifically for an Oregon Brew Crew meeting I did last week. Yep. All right, I've already covered all this. Moving on. 1978, homebrewing was the legislation that legalized homebrewing was passed. That bill was passed in October of 1978, and it went into effect February 1st, 1979. The bill was signed by Jimmy Carter, and in homebrewing circles, Jimmy Carter gets a lot of recognition for the legalization of homebrewing, and that's all fine and good. It's worth recognizing that he signed that legislation. Except that what he signed was an omnibus transportation bill, which dealt mainly with buses. But in in the course of how our federal legislature works, no bill gets passed in our federal legislature that doesn't have something else tacked onto it that has nothing to do with the original bill. And luckily for us, that was the case with this omnibus transportation bill. The 2 other gentlemen shown here, Senator Alan Cranston and Representative William Steiger, they sponsored the amendment to that omnibus transportation bill that legalized homebrewing. And really, Senator Alan Cranston is the primary champion of this. So I would like to propose a toast to Senator Cranston and Representative William Steiger for helping to legalize homebrewing. So, actually, shortly after I started with the American Homebrewers Association, I was actually at the Jimmy Carter Library. I was finishing up research on my thesis, which had to do with the Carter administration's policy toward Nicaragua during the Sandinista Revolution. If I had been employed by the AHA for a little bit longer, I mean, we're talking like a month or 2 after I was doing this research, I most definitely would have looked into, did Carter actually know that homebrewing legalization was in that bill he signed? So I really don't know. I kind of doubt it. Jimmy Carter's a teetotaler. His brother actually was involved with a beer company called Billy Beer, and he was a bit of an embarrassment to his brother, our president. I would love to go back and do that research. I haven't yet. I will someday. Another couple of interesting notes about these, in particular William Steiger. For one, Dick Cheney interned with William Steiger, so that's a little interesting tidbit. It has nothing to do with homebrewing, but I just figured I'd throw it out there because I know it. And then also, on an even more unfortunate note, William Steiger passed away in December of that year of a heart attack at the age of 40. And so he wasn't even alive when homebrewing became legal in February 1st of 1979. So thank you, William Steiger. Very unfortunate that you didn't live to see what your bill did for all of us. And then moving on to just a couple of months after that bill was passed in October, in December of 1978, two guys named Charlie founded the American Home Brewers Association when they published the first issue of Zymergy magazine. Now, the guy on the left, you might recognize, that's Charlie Papazian, wrote The Joy of Homebrewing, founded the AHA, founded the Great American Beer Festival, created the Institute for Brewing Studies, which meant that the AHA transformed into a division of the Association of Brewers, which eventually became the Brewers Association, created a very, very big thing for homebrewing and craft beer in this country. And I had the good fortune of getting to work alongside Charlie for 19 years of my time at the Brewers Association. Charlie Mattson, his friend, didn't stick around for very long, but Charlie Papazian would always make sure that he was included every time he talked about the founding of the American Home Brewers Association. It was critical to inspiring Charlie P. to get the ball rolling. Just looking at that kind of the evolution of homebrewing throughout time since the founding of since legalization of homebrewing, I think looking at the American Home Brewers Association membership gives you a good sense of how things transpired over time. So if you look at this, you see in the early days, the 1980s, fairly steady growth, and then rapid growth in the early 90s, followed by a bit of a peak and then a downturn. That downturn occurred when you saw a lot of craft breweries opening in the 1990s as well, and it also saw a peak. I'll show you a current graph of that just shortly from here. But right around that time in the mid 90s, we started seeing a lot of breweries opening up that were being opened by people who weren't necessarily the best brewers in the world, and so there was a lot of bad beer going out on the market, and I think it gave homebrewing a bit of a bad name. But it also was a case that there was a lot more accessibility of craft beer than there had been previous to that, and so the choices in the marketplace were much greater than what you had previously, and so the incentive to brew was down a little bit, and the reputation of homebrewing of craft beer and homebrewing wasn't necessarily the greatest. So we did see a bit of a downturn there, and from the retailers that I've talked to that were around back then, they also experienced a downturn at that time. And so then saw a little bit of a flattening out, and then a return to a growth pattern, which lasted for several years from around 2006 to about 2014. We saw very steady growth, in fact, some of the most rapid growth that the hobby has ever seen. And then our membership has leveled off. It's not. When I talk to retailers, and I'll show you a slide on this in a little while too, they've seen a bit of a steeper downturn. So their curve is probably a little bit more like what we saw in the 90s than what the AHA is experiencing. And so I'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. So just looking at the graph of the number of breweries in the country, you can see it's remarkably similar to the shape of the curve of homebrewers, which isn't really very surprising because most of the breweries in this country were founded by homebrewers. But it is interesting that you see that same curve. But what we've seen, if you superimpose that AHA membership over this graph, that peak was somewhere over here. So you see that there's a bit of a lag between the highs of craft brewing and the highs of home brewing and the peaks. Well, I mean, I would definitely attribute that to the breweries are getting founded by homebrewers, and so it makes sense that the graphs are similar. Where it has been so far dissimilar is that there has been no leveling off of the growth of craft brewers, and we've exceeded 8,000 breweries in this country. Hopefully, we'll still be at that level when we get through COVID-19, but obviously, a lot of those breweries. I think the median size brewery amongst those 8,000 breweries, their annual production is less than 500 barrels per year. So half of all of the breweries in this country are really tiny, or barely above above homebrewing levels. So which and in their cases, they're probably primarily serving via their tap room. They might have some draft accounts, very unlikely that they're doing any packaging other than crowlers or growlers. And so those breweries are going to be hurting right about now. And so I would highly recommend taking the time when you're not brewing yourself to go visit one of your local tap rooms and pick up some beer and support them. I've got a half barrel on tap in my kegerator from one of my local taproom breweries. That's very, very special to me. I didn't need that beer. I've been homebrewing in the past month and a half. I've probably brewed more than I have in any single month and a half in my entire life. But I'm going to support my local brewery too. A little bit about the homebrewer population. So we estimate that there's at least 1 million homebrewers in the United States right now. And with an economic impact, the last time we did an economic impact study was in 2017. So this number is probably a little bit on the high side, but it gives you a good sense of somewhere around $56 million is a whole lot of money. That's a pretty major impact on the economy, and that does not take into account all of those homebrewers that have gone on to open breweries, because that would definitely expand that economic impact by many times. So the importance of homebrewing to the economy is pretty huge, actually. So that's kind of cool to think. Like when we were starting to plug in the numbers, I would not have thought $756 million. Right now, we have around 620-ish homebrew supply shops in the country. That's down from a peak of over 820. So we've definitely seen a drop off. And I will talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. So, we'll get into our annual shop survey. So since 2009, we've done an annual survey of homebrew supply shops. So we want to get a sense of the homebrewing market as a whole, like the health of the hobby and how those shops are doing, and provide them with valuable feedback that they can use to enhance their businesses. So one of the key questions that we ask is about their gross revenue, and so we take a look at how that gross revenue has changed from year to year. So you see those during that time. I mentioned from 2006 to 2014 was a time of very rapid growth in AHA membership, while the retailers were seeing very rapid growth as well. And so you see, like getting up to in 2012, seeing 29% growth in gross revenue, average growth in gross revenue after a year of 24% growth in gross revenue. So multiple years of double-digit growth. and part of what happened, I mentioned that 820 number of retailers. Part of what happened was, as that growth was happening, a lot more people were thinking like, oh, this is a good business, and so we had a lot more homebrew supply shops opening in that time frame, and probably getting to the point where the market was saturated. And so you see, like in more recent years, from 2005 through 2019, you're seeing predominantly negative figures. And now these are all average across all homebrew supply shops, but what we've seen is that there's definitely a differential between different business types. In the early days of these downturns, we did see that the online retailers tended to be doing better than the brick and mortar stores, and particularly the older brick and mortar stores were the ones struggling the most, and that's been the case through most of these years, with the exception of 2019, which is an interesting number. It's a high number there, with the overall market being down 7%. But interestingly enough, that this year was the first year that we saw that online retailers, newer brick and mortar stores, and the older brick and mortar stores were all around the same level. Whereas in the previous years, we would see the online retailers doing pretty well, the newest brick and mortar stores actually doing the best, and the older brick and mortar stores really seeing a dramatic downturn. So it's interesting that it's more evenly spread across those shops in this past year. Now things are completely different right now. Well, I'll talk a little bit about this, and then I'll talk about kind of the present. With this past survey, 14% of respondents were indicating they were seeing double-digit growth, and that was down from 27% in the previous year. Also, strikingly different is the number of respondents reporting declines, being 65%. I think we've only had a couple of years where it was over 50% of stores actually experiencing declines, even though the averages were declining. Is predominantly a segment of the group that was really declining, that was bringing things down. So that was an increase in the number of shops that were seeing decreases from 2018. And then those that reported a decline in 2019 averaged around 12% decrease. So not insignificant at all, what those stores are experiencing. And so I think it's very important for us to be supporting our local homebrew supply shops. In this graph over time, it's a little hard to follow, but if you look at the green line and the red line, that's really telling a pretty significant story. So the green line is the number of shops that are seeing an increase in the number of stores in their area. And the red line is the number of stores that are reporting that there's a decrease in the number of stores in their area. And you can see those lines intersecting in 2018, but back in 2012 through 2014, 60% of stores year after year are seeing more stores open in their area. And then you go to 2019 and 2020, that goes down to 10% are seeing openings, whereas 38% are seeing closings. And so that's where I kind of said there may have been some saturation of the market, just too many stores out there for the market to support. And so I think we're getting back to a point where hopefully we will see a growth in homebrewing as a result of what's going on right now, and we might be able to get those stores back onto a more stable playing field and back to growth. I throw in this slide because it's something that the Brewers Association chief economist, PhD economist Bart Watson, he just on a whim decided to look into, is there a correlation between unemployment and homebrewing? This is long been a theory that there is a reverse relationship between homebrewing and the economy. When we see economic downturns, we do tend to see increases in the number of homebrewers. And so, given that the majority of homebrewers at this time, Kylie and I and our diversity subcommittee are working to change that, but at this current time, mostly white male, and it has been that way for a number of years. If you compare that white male unemployment to Google searches for how to homebrew, and this just shows a small range of that. It continues on if you keep looking, but I happen to have this slide, so that's what I used. But it is a remarkable how closely that graph holds. Now I've actually looked the hot search term right now for homebrewing is actually how to make beer, and we've seen that search term grow to the highest number that it's been in the last 5 years. So that is definitely a good sign that people are getting into the hobby. And based on the number of media calls that I've been getting of late, I think that we will. I am very hopeful that we are going to see a lot more people getting into homebrewing, a lot more people who maybe have left the hobby get back into it. But I'm hopeful that there might be a glimmer of hope coming out of this dismal time of being stuck at home. So given the situation, most homebrew supply shops right now are not necessarily closed, but not necessarily open for business either. We've done a survey of homebrew supply shops and found that most stores are not open to public coming into their doors, but they are open to doing curbside sales. In fact, a lot of homebrew shops have a grocer's license. They sell bulk food products, so they're required to have a grocer's license, which probably seemed like a major pain in the ass at the time they had to do that. But right now, it makes them an essential business. So that's very good for those stores. It's very good for us to be able to continue to support those shops. And I've been spending a lot of money with my local homebrew supply shop because I've been brewing an awful lot lately. So I'm happy to help out. I call in advance and pull up to my little store, and Mark comes out with a bag and puts it in my car, and I'm good to go. But that is how the majority of shops are in business right now. We did it. Our survey indicated that 75% of stores right now are doing curbside pickup. A lot of stores are also doing delivery. So definitely, if you have the opportunity, I know it's really easy to order online, and I love those businesses too. I'm friends with people who work for Northern Brewer and More Beer. And I do support those businesses, but I do make an effort to support my local homebrew supply shop. But on homebrewsassociation.org, we do have a directory of all those shops that participate in our survey to let us know how they're serving their customers. And so if you want to see how if your local homebrew shop has responded to that survey and what they're offering, you can go to homebrewsassociation.org and you can see that. You can also go to you can go to our shops directory right now. We're looking to support both the organization that supports the hobby as well as local homebrew supply shops. We do have on that directory, any single homebrew supply shop that's listed in our directory. If you there's a link associated with every single shop. You click that link, takes you to our membership page. If you join after clicking that link, we give that shop $5. So it's a way that we can support those local shops all over the country, as well as hopefully encouraging people to support our organization. And then I'm getting to the last segment of my presentation. So promote and protect homebrewing. So I mentioned media outreach. So we do we work with a marketing relations firm that helps get the message out about homebrewing. We're fortunate to be a part of the Brewers Association because we couldn't afford them by ourselves, but the AHA gets to utilize the services of our media relations company, and through that outreach, we had stories in the media that reached an audience of 383 million people. So that is one of the benefits of having a national organization for homebrewers, is that we're able to do this, whereas a local business, they might be able to get some media coverage, but they're not going to be able to get that level of media coverage. So that's part of what your member dollars go towards. And then on our website, we generated over 5 million sessions last year. I think we'll probably see both these numbers go up. As I mentioned, I've been getting a lot of media calls. I did an interview with the Associated Press last week that got picked up immediately by 90 different locations, including the Washington Post. And I've seen that popping up on all kinds of media outlets. So that's a great example of the ability to get a story out there and help promote the hobby of homebrewing. And so the more people who see that, the more people get interested in becoming homebrewers, the more people that are going to be interested in joining a homebrew club or supporting a local homebrew supply shop. I mentioned this earlier. We have a diversity inclusion subcommittee, and Kylie is a part of that. And so this is a division of the American Homebrewers Association Governing Committee. Danny Kahn is a member of the Governing Committee. So we created this subcommittee with the goal of reaching out to a wider audience for homebrewing. So it's something that I'm particularly proud of that our organization is doing. And it's not easy going, but we're hopeful that our efforts will lead to a broadening of the demographics that are involved in homebrewing. We also work on legislative issues involving homebrewing. So we passed homebrew legislation in Alabama and Mississippi. Were the last 2 states where it was expressly illegal to brew beer at home. But just passing homebrew legislation doesn't mean that homebrewers are able to do exactly what we think they should be able to do. In a lot of cases, states, including in Oregon, may have outdated laws. So Denny, I believe it was 2011 that we worked on Oregon's homebrew laws.
Somewhere far in the past, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I'm pretty sure it was 2011, 2010 or 2011. But in that case, in the case of Oregon was actually a very progressive state because it passed homebrew legislation immediately or shortly after Prohibition was repealed, even though it was federally illegal. But back in the 1930s, there were no homebrew clubs, there were no homebrew competitions, people brewed at home, and so that's what the law allowed. Like, you could brew beer at home, but it didn't allow for transport of homebrew, didn't allow for homebrew to be on licensed premises. So that's the kinds of things that we run into quite frequently, is particularly around transportation, or being able to bring beer onto licensed premises like a brewery for a homebrew club meeting or a homebrew competition. And so that's what most of this stuff is about. In the case of Idaho, that's an interesting one because in Idaho, you can only legally make beer from ingredients grown in the state of Idaho. Now, in the state of Idaho, they do grow hops and they do grow barley, but being able to identify where the hops that you buy at your local homebrew supply shop came from, most homebrewers are probably breaking the law in the state of Idaho. So I do believe that bill actually got passed, but there's more work to be done in there. But that's just an interesting example of some of the weirdness with homebrew law, and another example of why it's important to have a national organization that's working on behalf of homebrewers, is because we can assist with these getting changes to these laws. And if you're ever curious about what homebrew law looks like, you can go to our website, and we have every single state statute listed on homebrewsassociation.org. On the federal side, We do work with the Brewers Association, and the Brewers Association actually has a lobbyist in Washington D.C. And so we do some activities to increase the awareness of the homebrewing community amongst legislators and their staff, and to promote what homebrewing is all about. And so we do a few events. We participate in the Brewers Association's hill climbs, which are primarily craft breweries going to visit their legislators. But John Moorhead, our competition manager, manages our government affairs as well, and he's done a couple of visits to legislative offices. We do a Homebrew on the Hill event where we do a demonstration of brewing for primarily for staffers of the legislature. And then also we've served homebrew at congressional receptions, and we do an annual Hill Staff homebrew competition. So that's my presentation. I'll end with this slide that shows how much membership you should be trying to generate. And that activation code goes through through the end of the month. So disseminate how you will, and if you join, I really appreciate it. But in general, I just enjoy giving these presentations and having fun with all of you, and would be happy to take whatever questions you might have. This is the point at which you can turn off your mute button, because being in a social setting where all I can hear is myself kind of sucks.
You're doing great.
Hey Gary, this is Adam Boggs. I'm used to hang out in Boulder. Actually, I got a little hot barley in the LA's glass that you might recognize.
That's awesome. Hey, how you doing, Adam?
Doing pretty good. Hey, I had a question about kind of what you guys thought how COVID-19, whatever year it is, was gonna kind of affect the industry, and what are you guys anticipating in terms of both commercial breweries and homebrew stores alike, kind of maybe going out of business and stuff? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's an interesting mixed reaction with the homebrew supply shops. So some of them have had to close down entirely. Obviously, the majority of them have had to change up their business practice with whether they're open or not. I mentioned that survey, which indicated how many stores were doing curbside delivery. We did ask whether their business was up or down. We saw, I believe it was about 33% indicated that their business was up. 47% indicated their business was down. But in my conversations with the wholesalers that supply the homebrew supply shops, they have said that the majority of their customers are seeing increases in business. So I'm not entirely certain what to believe, but certainly there are a number of stores that are suffering as a result of this. There are other stores that are doing well. The two major online retailers, at least the ones that I'm most familiar with that I've talked to, More Beer and Northern Brewer, they are experiencing record sales. And it's a mix of new customers, existing customers, and old customers coming back into the hobby. So I think what we're seeing right now is existing homebrewers are brewing more frequently, because we have this amazing hobby that we now have no excuse not to participate in because we can't go anywhere. And a lot of people who have, I know the owner of my local homebrew supply shop said he's seen customers he hasn't seen in 10 years showing up at his business. So we're also seeing a lot of people getting back into homebrewing. And then there is indication that beginner kit sales are up as well. So we're seeing an increased number of homebrewers getting into the hobby. So I think short term, at least, we're definitely going to see a bump in the popularity of homebrewing. My hope is that we're getting a lot of people who are homebrewing for the first time, and they are finally seeing the light and realizing what an amazing hobby they've been missing out on for their entire lives, and will continue on with it. Time will tell. But as I've said, as I mentioned in that unemployment graph, obviously at the moment, we are seeing a very rapid increase in unemployment. And so a lot of people have a bit more free time on their hands. And so homebrewing may be seeing a renaissance. Hopefully hopefully for the economy's sake, that's short-lived. But I would say that we'll likely see an increase in the number of homebrewers, at least for the short term. It'll be hard to say once we get past this the stay-at-home situation, if those people who got into homebrewing are going to stick with it, if those people who dusted off their old equipment stick around with it, and if all of us keep brewing as frequently as we do. I hope I do. I'm having a hell of a lot of, I'm having a great time. I feel like so fortunate that I'm a home brewer. Like, being stuck at home and not being a home brewer would totally suck.
Gary, there was a question about supply chain side of things to homebrew stores. Do you have any information on that? Because there's a text conversation going on and some chatting going around. Like our local home fermenter center is doing, I guess, pretty darn good, or at least good. But he said that he's having trouble with supply side. So does the Homebrewers Association have anything or any information on that?
I have heard that from retailers that there are certain products, particularly one of the things that I think we're seeing as an impact is this sudden increase in the number of people who are brewing more frequently or who have started brewing. So the online businesses tend to do more equipment business because people are choosing to make their bigger purchases with online, which tend to be cheaper. They don't necessarily they're selling ingredients, but they're not necessarily selling as much ingredients. Sales of ingredients have just gone through the roof. And so a lot of the suppliers are having trouble keeping up with that from what I've heard. And it's, tends to be particular ingredients that are running in short supply. And so I would not be surprised if shops are having trouble getting particular ingredients.
Gary, I got a question for you. Might be a challenging one, and I know that you are kind of working on this collectively right now. But I guess looking at the kind of flattening of new home brewing and our kind of looking at diversifying, and what's the easiest or best way you think that we can bring other than just white males to home brewing?
I think the key is going to be making home brewing more. I think first off, it's really important to be aware that if your homebrew club is not particularly diverse, and I would say in your case, there's certainly a whole lot of women participating, a lot more women participating in this call than I have had in my previous club meetings, so that's fantastic. But being aware of the environment, and so if you've got somebody who's coming in who's either female or who's a person of color, the environment may not be entirely comfortable, and so going out of your way to make that person feel welcome, and bringing them in and introducing them to members of the club, I think that's really, really very important. I had a conversation with somebody who was doing some research at the Brewers Association. He was a Black man who had been to a couple of homebrew club meetings, and he went to one meeting where it was being held at somebody's house in a predominantly white neighborhood, and he said it was very uncomfortable to go into to be knocking at somebody's door in this particular neighborhood, and then not being particularly well welcomed by the members of the club. So, I think it was probably a case of, some club members being, perhaps outright hostile, and then other club members just not feeling comfortable about saying anything. And so I think just being aware that, the environment around a homebrew club meeting might not necessarily be totally comfortable for everybody, even though we, those of us who've been going to club meetings for a long time, like general club meeting, I feel right at home. These are my people, right? So just being aware that that's not necessarily how everybody's going to react. And then, being also, I think there's opportunities to find people in their own areas. There's an example of a club in Los Angeles called the SoCal Cerveceros. They're specifically a Latino homebrew club in Los Angeles, and they're huge. It's a huge club, but they got started in an area that was predominantly Latino, and so they were able to grow amongst that community. And so doing outreach to those communities and participating in cultural events is a way for us to get homebrewing greater exposure.
So for Big Brew, are you and Aaron each going to brew something different on your fancy systems?
We can't brew on the two systems at the same time because I've only got one 240 volt outlet.
Oversight, man. That can be fixed.
Be fixed for a few $1,000s. Yeah. Now we're just going to be brewing one batch. I am doing what I'm calling the Pangea approximate, not Pangea approximate, but approximate, because I can't get all those hops either. But I can get the yeast. So that's I'll be brewing an IPA with an eclectic selection of hops and using Quake yeast. However you pronounce that. Quake.
Man, when we put that out on the podcast and ask people, from Scandinavia to contact us and tell us how to pronounce it, the overwhelming majority of them said, whatever you want is okay.
That's not helpful.
Well, several of them said quike, like Kwike. A couple of them said quake. Yeah, but most of them said, either one, whatever, that's okay.
Depends on where in Scandinavia you're from.
Yeah, right.
Norwegians have a hard time agreeing on how to say anything at all.
Hey Gary, how about the yeast thing in general? Getting stuff from the Canadian company. Here we are on the West Coast. We've got suppliers, and then there's all of us that can have slashes and share with people. So, but what have you heard about supplying in general over the country and how that's going to be?
For that particular yeast strain, do you mean?
Just in general.
In general, a lot of the yeast suppliers do the liquid yeast suppliers generally sell direct, as well as through wholesalers. The dried yeast suppliers usually sell through the major wholesalers. So there's 3 major wholesalers. There's LD Carlson, Brewer Supply Group, and Brewcraft USA, which is part of Country Malt Group. I know Country Malt Group has the Lallemand Quake yeast now, and shops can actually buy direct from one of Lallemand subsidiaries, is Scott Labs, and they're in California, so they're able to sell direct. But I've heard various things about other suppliers and supply issues, and I believe Omega yeast is no more. But hopefully everybody's able to get used to it. I have a feeling the Quag strains will be increasingly popular. Like, I mean, I'm still just astounded that I'm drinking a beer that I brewed last weekend. Well, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that.
Judging by what I've seen you drink before, you'll drink anything.
I've drank beer with mushrooms in it, man. Crazy.
I was gonna say you've drank my beer, so you're not picky.
Hey, Gary. I'm Dana Garvis. I'm a part of the industry as well as a part of the Homebrewers Association. And I was just wondering if there's a talk you've seen on CBC or that there's one that's coming up that you think would be like perfect for our crowd of homebrewers, because it is free right now.
Yes, there's one actually that AHA staff member Matt Bowling did on how to connect it was aimed at breweries, but it was how breweries can connect with their local homebrewing community. That one was pretty, I'm probably a little partial, but I thought that one was pretty awesome.
That was a good one. I went to that one.
Yeah, that one was good. I was proud of my club because I kept being like, yeah, oh yeah, we do that. Oh, we do that.
I also liked that he was enjoying a beer and encouraging others to do so during his talk. I thought that was fun.
Totally appropriate. I wouldn't do a talk without it.
Gary, thinking forward to November, since we're kind of losing Big Brew as an opportunity, as a public outreach, as a club, do you have any tidbits or suggestions for us as a club to make Learn to Homebrew Day, a bigger event specifically for this year?
I certainly work with the local homebrew supply shop, but I mean, you could also probably partner with all those breweries you've got in Eugene to help you get the word out. Because I bet there's a whole lot of people who are thinking that homebrewing is a good thing, and like they might not have gotten into it yet, but now would be a really great opportunity for them to do so. I think something that I think is really important with Learn to Homebrew Day is keeping it simple. And I totally recommend doing extract batches. For one, they're really easy to set up, and two, like the equipment involved is not nearly as intimidating. So if it's a visual thing where people are gathering, if they see like a 3-vessel brew system and think that's what it takes to homebrew, it might actually turn people away. So.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I like bringing just my little electric.
Well, you do. I mean, it's
Yep.
a little fancy, but
I mean, it's a little fancy, but it's just a one pot plug and done. No 240 needed for mine. So
I converted my 5-gallon to 240 because I have 240. So
yeah.
But I honestly think those systems aren't necessarily a bad thing, because people can still visualize doing it themselves, and they could see themselves buying that piece of equipment because it takes up so little space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed having it.
Yep. Other questions for Gary, or questions about the AHA in general, the presentation? Now it feels like I'm back at work. Gary, thank you. If you want to stick around, we're going to do a raffle if you want to participate in that. One of the things that we are going to do, and thank you for the discount code. I was informed by Kylie, because she attended Matt's presentation at CBC, that homebrew stores have their membership cards and they get a little bit of a kickback for buying a membership through there. So as a club, we're actually going to be raffling off a membership card purchased through our local homebrew store for anybody who's here. So that's one thing that we're going to do, because I do feel strongly that we need to try and support everyone as we can. We're also going to be giving away a book of a person's choice purchased through Brewers Publications by the club, and we'll ship it out. But we have a bunch of other stuff. And I invite you to stick around and participate.
But we realize it is later over there.
It is later for you than it is for us. So.
Well, this is the only way I get to socialize anymore. So I can hang out for a while longer.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to throw up the slides for me?
I will. Gary, can you stop your presentation? I'll switch over to mine once I find them again. Okay.
So I do have a random number generator going, which updates like every few seconds.
I think. Crap. That's not the right thing. Is that the right thing?
Hey, that
okay.
looks right.
Apple, right?
Yep.
Dana, you're gonna have to tell me to advance the slides.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you go to the first one? That's you, Mike.
Wait, what?
The first slide. That's you.
That's number one. I win that?
Yeah, you're raffling that off, man.
Oh, well, crap. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. A lot of pressure.
I'll figure out something.
All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Oh, you skipped to number 2 now.
Oh,
there we go.
Wait, I win this or am I giving this away?
You're giving it away, man.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. President.
So obviously, Gary talked about why we want more members. I don't know if there's much that I really should say other than membership pays. And so one way that we figured as a club we could try and boost membership is to encourage just by giving a membership pay. So
yeah. All right, so here we go. I just rolled the random number and it is going to Mark Rothwood.
Congratulations, Mark.
Congratulations, Mark.
I'll text you, Mark.
Do we know if Mark has one already?
He does, but I think it adds to his membership.
He says he's already has one in the chat. Do you want us to re-roll this, Mark? You should give it away, he says. Okay, all right. He's going back in. Here we go.
I guess
proverbial drum roll. It goes to Kathleen. Kathleen, do you want it? You want it to go to Carl? Okay, they want it to go to Carl.
Okay, it goes to Carl.
Done. Nice.
I didn't renew this year. I will take it.
Hey.
There we go.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Says I have a lot of background noise. Hold on. Hey, guys.
Hey, James. Yeah.
You. All right. Sorry about that. Thanks, Adam. Is that better? I hope that's better. We actually have a friend over for the first time in forever. Okay. So book of your choice. This Mike will, in theory, send you a link to the books that are available. This is going to Dan Dixon. Dan Dixon in the crowd.
He's there somewhere.
I am. I'm here. Thank you. That's awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so Mike is going to coordinate with you to get you that book of your choosing.
Yep.
All right, next up is Denny. Denny is going to give away 2 books, hopefully signed, but I didn't put it in writing.
I'll sign them if you want, but they're worth less if I do.
Oh, okay. Can we get Drew's signature?
Yeah, but you have to pay him for that. So the first one is Homebrew All Stars. I actually love this book. This is like interviews with 25 of what we consider are the greatest homebrewers around, one of whom happens to be Mr. Gary Glass. So there's a section on Gary in this book. They're divided up by archetypes, depending on what they like to do, the science people, the gearheads, that kind of thing. So one of these on me for one of you. Roll these dice.
That is going to Old Guard Matt, who is watching via YouTube, so he won't find out for another 15 seconds.
So it's like 2 minutes.
Old Matt, as in Matt Jarvis, he's still alive?
Yes.
Wow, amazing.
Do you think he has the book?
If he doesn't, he should.
All right, good. Good answer. Would you ship that to him, Denny? Do we need to get you that address?
Yeah, I'll get it to him somehow.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Next up from Denny, book number 2 here. You want to tell us about that?
This is our new one, Simple Home Brewing. No, it's not a beginner's book. It's a book for people who've been brewing a long time and are doing too much shit they don't need to do to figure out what they don't need to do. And it just so happens that the foreword to this book is written by Mr. Gary Glass.
Nailed it.
So we have
How topical.
Yeah, that's right. So this is a fairly cool book. It's very interestingly written, just like all of ours are. We make fun of each other. So let's see who gets it.
Okay, so this is going to hold up, plot twist. It goes to Carl, but Carl already got it, so it's going to Kathleen.
Okay.
Works
Is that good, Kathleen? Do you have this one? Do you have a signed copy of
We're
it?
simple.
We're simple. Yeah. Next character
Yeah, right.
still, so we're good. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll get in touch and we'll figure out how I can get it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, next up. Thanks, Denny.
You bet.
This is from Allie. Is she here?
No.
Okay, so Allie McQueen is going to be sending this digital print, and I think she's also going to send you, mail you a physical copy. This is something she made specifically for us. It's very beautiful. And this is going to, tell me, Google, it is going to Adam. Adam Box, do you want this print?
Woo! Yeah, that's beautiful. I would love that print.
Awesome. Very
That's amazing. Cool.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Allie. Thanks, Adam.
Yay.
Next up, Kylie.
Oh, that's me. That's
What's
me.
the haps?
That is a jar of my home pickled cherries. They are pickled in a apple cider vinegar rice wine mixture with rosemary, fresh from the garden. They are delicious on their own. The liquid they are in makes a fantastic cocktail and or shrub base if you're into carbonated water or boozy cocktails, and are just plain delicious.
Okay, I just laughed because the winner is Christy Macbeth. Does she want them?
I have a jar of those in my pantry already.
Okay, do you want to spread the love? Give it to someone else?
Yes.
Okay, all right, hold on. Let me generate that. Thanks, Christy. Yeah, I have a jar of them too, and they're really good. Little endorsement there for Matt, if you want it. Matt with 2 T's. You want some pickled cherries?
Sure, I'll definitely take those. Thank
Hell
you.
Yeah. Dude, they're so good in cocktails and like a little drizzle of the syrup.
Excited to try them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, oh, this one's me. So I've been doing this thing in isolation where I've been painting canvas tote bags. So they're just little tote bags. This one has fruit. The webcam doesn't do it justice, but it's got blueberries and an orange and a strawberry. And then this side is a little bit better. We've got a watermelon, a pineapple, and a kiwi. So let's see who's getting this thing. That is going to Keaton. Do you want it, Keaton? Do you want this?
Yes,
little
please.
cup? Yeah?
Hell yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hell yeah, there might be some homebrewed cider in there too.
Oh no.
Not in the bag, in a growler in the bag.
Either works. If the tote bag can hold the cider, that's impressive.
I don't think it can. It'll strain it really well. All right,
Thanks.
Mike or Kylie, next up.
That's me because Mike went to the bathroom.
Okay, Dan Dixon. Do you want to tell us about the magazines you have?
They're probably 30-ish. I don't know how many of them, but basically just a stack of Brew Your Own and Zymergy for whoever wants them.
Awesome. Great for collages or recipe ideas. This is going to Denny Kahn if he wants them. Denny, you still around? Not around. All right, let me re-roll here. Let's all
Denny
just take
die?
a moment. I think he left after his items were raffled. Steve, it's yours if you want them. Or Kelly, you want them?
Man throws. Where are the man throws?
They get them.
Thumbs down. We just got a thumbs down. All right, hold on.
So
You have them, of course. Sally, do you want them? You won, Sally. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, hands clapping. We're gonna assume yes. Thumbs up. All right, Sally wants them. We'll have you coordinate with Dan Dixon about getting them delivered out to you guys, or maybe we could do a home fermenter drop off. All right. Dan, next one. You have a couple of cool books. That Brewers log looks awesome.
Yeah, just some old books. Some of them are pretty interesting. One of them's a clone book that's got some interesting stuff in it. So, not much to report
Brian
on those,
Macbeth, are you interested in this Misk brewing books?
Where is he?
Thanks, but no, he says in chat. All right. Well, tell us how you really feel, buddy. All right, let's see. Daniel, are you interested in these?
Daniel is still here.
Hold up, maybe he's got to get to the chat. You know, we call him out like unexpectedly. Daniel?
This is a yes.
We have several of those already. Wow, we are snobs in this club. 14. Claude, can you hear us? Do you want them? Yes. Hey, all right. Dan, are you good to get these to Claude and to Neil and Sally?
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Dan. Next up, Neil. I don't know if you know how to unmute yourself.
We can do it.
Okay. Neil, tell us about this carboy in theory.
That worked.
Hey, yeah, we can hear you.
Hell, not much to say. I mean, everybody's got way too many glass carboys, and if I want to contribute to that,
Hey, you know, mine doesn't have a handle, so.
Oh, well, hope you win.
Don't trust me.
Kylie doesn't trust the handle. All right.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Number 4, Michael Gwynn, do you need a glass carboy?
No, not really.
No, well.
Yep. You want 2 of them then?
Thanks, Neil.
We were literally just discussing this.
Kylie, then you probably don't want them either.
No, we just
Oh dear.
bunch of
Neil.
Herb, would you take them? Number 18.
Somebody, anybody.
Ellen and Herb, are they still on the chat?
They're
Do you want it, Dana?
I have 3 fermenters.
Okay.
Thank you, though. Is there anyone who wants to speak up who specifically needs a glass carboy right now?
I'll put a $1 bill in it.
Does anyone want it with a $1 bill in it? Kathleen and Carl. Okay, Kathleen and Carl want it. Angela wants it. Oh.
That's fine.
Oh, we've got something interesting going on here.
I could put $2 in there.
$2.
Oh, boy.
Two.
How do I handle this? Should I
I
just
already
keep
got some.
raffling?
Well, Kathleen and Carl both already have prizes, so give it up.
Angela,
Okay, Angela, it goes to you. Maybe Angela, do we have her?
Yeah, we'll get contact information going around.
Okay, all right. Hey, thank you for taking care of that. Awesome. Welcome, Angela. Hell yeah. All right, what's next? Only 6 more items. All right. Here's a bit of a showstopper from Brant, the woodworker himself. We have a handmade Purple Heart wooden pen made with his very own bleeding heart. Brant. Let's see. Like, put hands up if you want this, because I'm sure
So it's
we
just
all
a
do.
it's just a wooden. It's a pen that I made. It's Purple Heart. It's got some good kind of figure in it. Kind of shimmers a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
Ellen,
yeah.
do you have a Brant pen? That sounds like she does now.
I'll take it.
Okay, it goes to Ellen.
Yay, Ellen.
All right, so we've got a 12.1 because Kathleen and Carl snuck in a second little addition here. But this first one is, well, do you guys want to talk us?
Sure. So we've got there's a whole website that talks about a buttload, an ass ton, a shit ton, a shitload, like whatever the highest one is, that's how much rhubarb we have in our yard. So I actually got a whole cookbook of just rhubarb recipes, and we've become really enamored with these rhubarb bars. Rhubarb. One word,
Rhubarb
like
bars.
gabar, rhubarb. So it's got
Rhubarb
oatmeal, it's gluten-free, it has sugar, but we cut the sugar in half. So
Taste the rhubarb.
All right, well, my first roll was to Denny, but he is no longer here. So it goes to Michael. Do you want some rhubarb bars? Oh, hell yeah, he does. Excellent. All right, and then Kathleen found super awesome. Next set, 12.2.
Okay, so if you've never seen The Thin Man with Nick and Nora, it's Myrna Loy and I can't remember the guy's
William
name.
Powell.
William Powell, because I have a big crush on Myrna Loy. This is a great for just entertainment. There are 6 of them. Watch the first one, and then if you like it, you can keep going. So there's a certain glass shape, this glass shape that's now called the Nick and Nora glass. In their first movie, they just do it's a mystery and a lot of drinking. Those are a good combo. And I broke one of my Nick and Nora glasses. So when I got my $1,200 refund, I bought a set of 6 of them. But I don't need 6, so one of you gets 2 of them.
Hey, so let's make your trip real easy. Kylie, do you want those?
Sure.
Awesome.
Right, okay.
One trip for you.
Okay.
Very cool. All right, Kelly, this is for delivery only. So sorry, those of you out of town.
Yeah, I'm not shipping them.
Kelly this is first item from Kelly. Do you want to tell us about your eggs? I just pulled this clip art, man. I
They
just
are
Googled
very
eggs.
eggy, and there are no white ones in ours.
No
blue.
white eggs.
No white eggs. We're very racist over here.
In the best direction. All right. I want these so bad that I structured this whole raffle so that she would have to do this. But it goes to Claude.
Oh.
The Claude won something?
Oh, Claude already won something. Whoops. I'm sorry. Sorry, Claude. Let's see. It is going to Christy is not in Eugene. But you can think about the eggs that you might have won in Salem.
We won it.
We had some cookies made with Kelly's eggs.
And lastly, we've got Matt Olive. Would you like some eggs?
Matt has eggs.
Matt has eggs.
Yeah, thank you.
But
I have
these eggs are meant for you.
three wonderful chickens that lay eggs for me on a daily basis. Dana, why don't you take the eggs?
I really would love it, but they should
They're mine
go
to
to
give to you.
TK. Is TK around?
Oh, TK.
Do you want some eggs, buddy? Just leaves.
Yeah.
He just leaves.
Yep.
I'll take them, Kelly.
Okay. I've never had such a trouble getting rid of eggs.
Yeah, I know, that's ridiculous. I want them. I'll take them. I'll trade you some cider. All right, let's do the next one then, shall we? If they just go to me.
I'm cooking. Okay.
Hey, okay, this is from Claude. He's gonna do 2 6-packs of big soap. Is that what I heard? Claude?
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, the regular size.
Oh, regular size.
Right.
Double
6
6-pack.
Right.
Brant, do you need any soap?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll be glad. And when I get them from Claude, I will give him a dozen eggs too. Because I have like 8 dozen in the refrigerator right now.
Awesome. Very cool. Hey, thanks for everyone's donations. We've got one left from Adam. Adam, do you want to tell us about your choice here?
Yeah, so I've got some sauerkraut fermenting. I've got some Italian giardiniera that I just made, or some hot sauce that I made using peppers out of my garden that's quite spicy. So it would be your choice of whichever one you prefer, and delivered, or I could ship the hot sauce probably, but the other ones are fresh, so I need to deliver them. So
awesome. Well, this one goes to our esteemed guest, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Gary, do you want one of those that will be shipped?
Well, I guess it would be the hot sauce, right?
Probably.
I would absolutely take. I love hot sauce. So,
You okay with spicy stuff?
oh yeah, hell yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I'll figure out how to contact you and ship you a bottle.
Oh,
fantastic.
Did we somehow, I'm sorry, I think we missed one of Kelly's, we accidentally missed one of Kelly's items. Number 14, there we go. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kelly.
That's okay.
How did that happen? Did anyone else see this slide?
No, it like skipped, so it wasn't your fault. It just
Okay, all right. No, so we have one last item. Perfect way to wrap it up. Thanks everyone for sticking around this long. This is the Calm the Fuck Down Herbal Relief Pack. Tell us about it, Kelly.
That's trademarked, by the way.
Oh, nice. Sorry.
I will send a package to Samuel L. Jackson as well. So it's basically a lot of calming herbs in this crazy time, not just calming like sleepy, but nervines and just general heart loving herbs. So probably a tincture of my own creation, and then a tea that I'm calling Calm the Fuck Down. And it's pretty awesome. It's just kind of, you take it and helps you relax, helps you kind of breathe and deal with anxiety.
Yeah.
Have a hot cocoa, maybe. Yeah, so.
Awesome. That sounds dope. Hey, Matt Olive, do you think you could use that? Did you win anything? Because I remember calling your name, but I think you turned it down.
I'm ashamed to admit I probably need this.
Yes. Don't be ashamed, man. Don't be ashamed.
Well, thank you.
We're all going through it. Yeah. So let me know if you need help getting in contact with someone who you need to get your prize to, or if you never received yours within like a week or two, let me know and we'll help hook you up. But that's it for me I've decided MC Raffler. That's the title.
Raffler.
Yeah. Thank
Awesome.
you. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. I mean, we're there. So major thanks to Gary for sticking through this with us for an hour and a half. Thank you to everybody for being out here and participating. I'm excited to do this again next month. So I can't say we're going to have someone of Gary's caliber to present to us, but we will get something to the club for education.
Awesome.
Next month. So we will do that for certain. Otherwise, we are at that point where if you feel like your transit home is too far because your bed's 20 feet away instead of 10 feet away, you can sign off. Otherwise, we're here.
We can just chat.
And one of the things I would say is that we do have 20 people in here. So if you have questions for specific people, you'd want to use the private chat feature. Otherwise, yeah, happy Monday.
So is this, I guess I have a question. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Actually, thanks a ton for coming aboard. I know being an hour ahead is, or a couple hours ahead, it's getting late. So thanks for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for letting me join you.
As Ed Guy, is this a format that works? I am, it's 2020. I've been watching a more webinars than I've ever imagined I would watch in a 3-week period. I mean, is this a format that works for the club?
Dude, Matt, I feel like I dodged such a fucking bullet.
Yeah. Is this a format that works for people? Is this something we because if so, I mean, we can do this, for ed talks and stuff like that.
I say thumbs up. Got a lot of thumbs
Okay.
up.
Well, then I'll put my head together and we'll get with Michael just to make sure we got something that works, and that makes me happy because it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, and one of the things too is I would envision our meetings not being the full, and we're normally 7 to 9, and obviously we are not beholden to anybody's closing time except for your own. And so it's not like we're beholden to any sort of restaurant hours, but I would imagine our meetings would maybe be about that hour and a half maximum as we're doing this remotely. At a max, they could be as short as about an hour. But this is one where if you are interested, if you do have an interest that you'd like to share with the club, connect with Matt or myself. Happy to get you squared away with presentation. I am doing meetings like this on a daily basis. So if you want to test something out or problem solve, I am more than happy to put my eyes to another screen for a little bit. I just got to invest in some blue blocker glasses at some point.
Do the Casey Neistat thing,
Yeah.
What kind of glasses?
I don't wear any glasses, but you can buy non-prescription blue blockers. So they block blue light. So a lot of what's coming up the screen, and that's what causes fatigue. So I shared an article with all of my student employees that was written by an anthropology professor about why this sucks in terms of emotional connection and like why you're so drained as a human from interacting to a computer screen on a daily basis. So there's a psychological aspect of it. There's also a physiological aspect of it as well.
I thought you were
I'm out. Got dinner. Bye. Love you all.
Dinner.
Happy Monday.
These glasses have the blue thing in it. I thought you were talking more about the Casey Neistat is like a prominent blogger. He wears glasses so you can't see where he's looking.
Oh,
you can't tell he's not looking in the camera the whole time. So
no, this is literally like Kylie's glasses that she wears have them. The film is on them.
It's like Kelly's.
Yeah, you can kind of like Kelly's. You can kind of see reflected in
the blue.
How blue her glass reflection is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a thing that if you are doing a lot of teleconferencing, it's something you could look into.
But I actually need glasses unlike him.
Yeah.
So,
and as a friendly reminder, Kylie mentioned it at the happy hour. This is potentially the best burger and brew deal I've seen. Adam said he filled a corny keg at Ninkasi and picked up a burger and fries for less than $50.
So I went on at 10 a.m. this morning to order a burger and fries for lunch because every time I go on for dinner, they're sold out. And they were sold out at 10 a.m. So what's your advice? Because I really want French fries.
It might have been too soon.
Yeah, we don't open until 11.
Oh, so they don't take orders prior to that. Okay.
I got mine at 5, so if they were sold out at 10, then I don't know how that worked.
Well, because there were other things that were available, but that and one other thing were not grayed out. They were light and said sold out, but everything else was available. So
they may have sold out on those on Sunday and hadn't updated yet for Monday.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't actually manage any of that.
No, I know, but I just figured you had the inside scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say too, just like paying attention, like you have to do more social media to stay connected with your favorite breweries. But yeah, like I did Sun River delivered, and a 4-pack was
The $16 is
$16
$4 a
is
can.
$4 a can, 16-ounce can. So it's $4 pints delivered to my door. Pretty baller.
I'm digging Matt's new photo.
And Kylie, there's 25% off at Ninkasi, both keg fills and the bottled and can stuff, right?
No, the bottles and cans went back onto regular price today because we've been selling so much.
Oh, okay.
So those went off sale today. But to make up for the draft that we're not selling in bars and restaurants, we're doing 25% off on Cornies.
It looked like there were deals on, like, if you bought food plus some crowlers, though, there might have been a deal. I don't know if it was actually cheaper, but the menu had prices like, you know, burger plus crowler, a 6-pack or whatever was cheaper, or some different price. I don't know if it's actually cheaper or not, but
yeah.
Christy's good enough to live close to 2 cideries, so she gets cider delivered weekly.
Oh, that must be terrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
What 2 cideries?
Bauman's in 2 towns.
Okay.
So they can deliver alcohol here?
Yes.
Ninkasi's delivering right now. We got our application processed. Yeah.
Was it always a thing that people could do and they're just doing it now because of all this?
I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest, if it's a temporary thing or if like it's we're skirting our distribution contracts, or if this is going to be like a serious change to the 3-tier distribution laws or any of that. That is not my area of expertise, but I know that we're able to do it for now, so we're going to do it.
Do we have 3-tier distribution laws here in Oregon?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you can't self-distribute.
You
Correct.
can if you
If you're-
produce under a certain amount.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
so
Okay.
so the way that like a lot of people get away with it is they start their own distribution company. So Block 15 just did this like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So once you hit, and I don't know what the barrelage number, but there's a mandated barrelage number within the state. So every state's got its own regulations. But so the way that we used to self-distribute is that it looked like that, but we actually had 3 companies. So we had the brewery, Local D, and the tasting room. So we would basically make beer, sell it to Local D, and then Local D would sell it back to the tasting room and deliver it. And so that's the way that Block is doing it, and a lot of other breweries do it. But each state has its own self-distributing limit. It varies by state. Some don't let you do it at all, but I think Oregon was like, say, 3,000 barrels, for example. So you make 3,000 barrels a year. You as one company can self-distribute, and once you hit that threshold, you can no longer do it. So it's purely tax-based and economic. So
Okay. I mean, that was one of the huge things for small breweries in Colorado. They could throw their kegs in the back of a pickup truck and drive them over to the local restaurants and stuff and sell them, you know, that way. That was great for small breweries. So it sounds like small breweries can still do that kind of thing, which is good.
Yeah, and it sounded like Dana threw something in the chat way early on during Gary's presentation. Specifically, like some of her clients in Colorado, she's found out that they aren't allowed beer delivery at all, like the way that we are.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked about it, because I guess they can't deliver to like someone's house, but they can deliver to a restaurant or something.
Yeah, the rule right now in Oregon is essentially whoever orders it and the address that it has to be delivered to needs to match the identification of the person receiving the beer. I will be honest, Sun River didn't do that. I actually met him like on his walk up, and he just set everything down. He's like, "You're over 21, right?" "Yes, I am." And then he walked away.
So hopefully your sticker on your license is updated.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Like Ninkasi
Yeah, we've
is.
had to have, like, we've shown up at people's doors and we've made it very clear in all of our communication that your address has to match where we're delivering. We've shown up in people's address that's not matched. But the really messed up part of it is you can follow us back to Ninkasi and pick it up there and go home. But we can't leave it at your doorstep if your address does not match where we're physically delivering to.
So Alesong has been offering like free shipping or something like that. At least I haven't looked specifically, but
Yep.
like they could save some money by just delivering it around town if they were able to do that.
Yeah, and they're I think if you're local, their deal is it's free shipping over $75. You're getting everybody is getting club discount. So if you've never been a club member there, you're getting the 10% off deal that everybody else would get. And then I think if you are local, they kind of alluded to the fact that they will personally deliver it. But they will ship in Oregon for certain.
Bye, Dan.
Bye, Dan.
Bye, Dan.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I keep meaning to support them. So
Yeah,
not that
and
I
if you
don't have
wanna take
like
a
3
drive,
cases.
if you want to take a drive, you can still go out there. So
Okay. Well, that's worth it too.
Yeah.
I'm right off Bailey Hill already, so it's not that far.
That's true, not for you.
go say hi to some cows.
Hey, I gotta
Adam's
talk
like
to
18
somebody.
minutes.
Yeah, 18 minutes.
Gosh, it's like 45 from here.
I know, God, it's near an hour from our house. And Brian mentioned in the chat that he's heard that OLCC is going to examine hard alcohol delivery too, which would be interesting.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're in Washington, it's a thing. Somebody I know in Washington ordered tacos and not mixed margaritas, but they got margarita kits where they could mix them once they got home. So, but like the alcohol was all measured and everything was all measured out, and you just like made a margarita.
If only we were in Louisiana and we could just go through a drive-through margarita bar, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louisiana. Yeah. Same thing. Drive through. As long as it has a lid on it, it's fine.
Walk down the street with it.
Oh, good grief. Ah, okay. I think I'm honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm about ready to crash. Today was not an awesome day for me, at least in terms of staying motivated. So I'm gonna nope out. I can end the meeting and leave everybody here, so you all can keep conversing. But I'm about ready to fall asleep. So
I think everyone's peacing out. Thank you for setting this up, Michael. That was an awesome talk, and I'm glad we had a meeting. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, we can put our heads together, and unless you have an idea already, and I can follow your lead. But it seems like we got pretty good attendance, so I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, I think we'll just explore using this or some other alternative venue. I think we were able to include old Matt into a meeting for the first time in forever. By
Half a
having
decade.
a YouTube stream, and it really doesn't affect anything. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
Cool.
All right.
Enjoy the evening, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Everybody.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday
later.
happy hour.
See you Friday.
Are we this Friday?
Yeah, this Friday.
Every Friday.
Every Friday.
Where are we this Friday?
Your computer.
Do you need a theme?
I don't know. Do we need a theme?
Yes, we need a theme.
Okay, we need it. You know, there's so many of these video cons. I think that the themes help separate them. Oh, it's the masquerade one. Oh no, it's this one. Oh no, it's this one.
If somebody has an idea, let me know.
No pants.
Secretly, I wish the weather was terrible so we could all like dress in our favorite onesies. But it's gonna be nice.
76 on Wednesday. So
How about pajamas in general? Or
Can we have like a brunch meeting? And then
Whatever, most of us are living in our pajamas these days.
Right, yeah.
someone said no pants. I'm like, that's
what
everything.
are even pajamas?
I know, I get dressed up to attend these online meetings.
Okay, well, we'll figure out a theme. If somebody has a really great one, send it to me via email, and then we'll get connected.
Let's do Hawaiian this Friday.
Ooh, Hawaiian?
We haven't done Hawaiian yet.
Let's do Hawaiian. I like it.
Hawaiian.
Who's gonna bury the pig?
Oh yeah, cochon de lait is good.
Is that a euphemism?
It could be.
Wow.
Just for you.
Sorry, I've been drinking.
Good night, everybody.
On that note,
Right.
have a good night. Bye.
Bye.